Bonjour! Today's lesson is going to be at a B1 level, so that's an intermediate French level. I'm going to talk to you about possessive pronouns. And so maybe you have already learned possessive adjectives. That's when you say my glasses, for example, or my sweater, your nose, his eyes, her earrings, right? Today's lesson, we're going to take that a step further. Instead of using possessive adjectives, we're going to talk about possessive pronouns. And so if you said something like, yes, these are mine, those are yours, they're his, they're hers, they're ours, they are theirs. That's what we're going to talk about today. And again, they're called possessive pronouns. Level B1. Now, let me go in and tell you that if you're a patron of mine on Patreon, you can go over there and print out your study guide, have it ready, take notes as you watch and listen to this lesson. And if you don't know what that is, there are many things you can do on Patreon, but if you just pledge $1 per month toward my Love Learning Languages project, you will gain access to all of my printable lesson guides. Okay, and so if you really want to practice these possessive pronouns, you can sign up for my mini course. All of those links are down in the description below. Okay, so let's get started. I already told you a little bit about what possessive pronouns are, but just have a look at this chart. Like pretty much everything in French, possessive pronouns agree with nouns in number and gender. Okay, and the gender thing is huge. I'm not gonna lie. If you don't know if a word is masculine or feminine, this is going to be tough, okay? But I'll talk to you a little bit about that in a little while, okay? But you see here over on the left, how do you say mine? You pronounce it le mien in the masculine singular. And yours, le tien. His, hers, and its are all the same in the masculine singular, le sien. Ours, le nôtre, yours, le vôtre, theirs, le leur. Okay? And then we have all of the other forms that you can see, but I'm not going to pronounce them all right now because I'm going to show you lots of examples where you'll get to hear them. Okay? I just want to tell you some people have a hard time pronouncing le mien, le tien, le sien. Some of my students have a hard time with it. So I just told someone today who I was talking to on Skype, I said, it rhymes with rien. So you know how to say rien, just make sure you make it rhyme with that, okay? So let me start out right away and show you some examples. Okay, so over here on the left, we have some sentences using possessive adjectives. So if I say, où sont tes clés? Where are your keys, right? That TES is a possessive adjective that means yours. And over on the right, I might answer or respond and say, j'ai oublié les miennes à la maison. Où sont tes clés? J'ai oublié les miennes à la maison. You see how that works? So I spelled it les miennes, M-I-E-N-N-E-S, because the keys are feminine and plural, okay? We're going to look at that chart again in a few minutes, but let's finish seeing these examples. Tu porteras ton chapeau, je porterai le mien. Tu porteras ton chapeau, je porterai le mien. Okay, so will you wear your hat? Possessive adjective. I will wear mine. Possessive pronoun. Remember, a pronoun is a word that replaces a noun. Okay, so I don't have to repeat chapeau again. That would sound so boring. Tu porteras ton chapeau? Je porterai mon chapeau, right? We don't want to say that. We want to say mine, okay? Tu aimes ta voiture? J'adore la mienne. D'accord? So keep in mind here, it doesn't matter if tu or je, it doesn't matter if these people are masculine or feminine. What matters here in this last example, for example, is that voiture is feminine. And in the middle example, chapeau is masculine, you see? Tes clés, or clés, are feminine. And it's important to note that possessive pronouns are always preceded by definite articles. Le, la, and les. And that's something really different to the way we do it in English, because we don't say, oh, do you have your keys? I forgot the mine. We don't have to do it. But remember that in French, you always have to have a noun marker, okay, when you're using nouns. And with these pronouns, you do as well. Let's have some more examples. Alors, tu as tes lunettes? Jean a oublié les siennes. Tu as tes lunettes? Jean a oublié les siennes. So do you have your glasses? John forgot his. So in English, it's just that simple. John forgot his. His what? His glasses, which are feminine and plural. So that's the feminine plural form, sienne. And since it is plural, our definite article is les. D'accord? Tu prends ton chapeau? Olivia ne prendra pas le sien. Tu prends ton chapeau? Olivia ne prendra pas le sien. Okay, so now let's have a look at Jean and Olivia. So Jean a oublié les siennes. It doesn't matter that Jean is a guy. His glasses, that's a feminine word. So we have to use the feminine form of the pronoun. And it doesn't matter that Olivia is a girl. We're talking about her hat, which is a masculine noun, okay? And look at the last example. Tu aimes ta chemise? Jean n'aime pas la sienne. Tu aimes ta chemise? Jean n'aime pas la sienne. So that's something, if you remember when you learned possessive adjectives, you've already been through this. It's not about Jean being a guy and Olivia being a girl. It's about that noun. And why is a shirt, chemise, a men's shirt? Why is it feminine? I don't know. Why is a hat masculine? I don't know. So let me just tell you, I do think that's the hardest part about this lesson and many things in French. But honestly, what's the worst thing that's going to happen if you get it wrong? You've got a 50-50 chance at this, guys. If you don't know that a word is masculine or feminine, then guess. I mean, you will be understood because you will be using a possessive pronoun. Okay? So it's going to sound close anyway. And, you know, if you're out there for perfection, then that's fine. I understand wanting to perfect your French. But you also want to communicate, because there's no use in having perfect French if you're never going to open your mouth and speak because you're afraid. So you don't know the gender, you guess. That's what I do, okay? All right, a few more examples. Plural possessive. Now look at these. Plural possessive pronouns only have 3 forms. Okay, and so what I mean by that, let's look at this chart again. We looked at this chart earlier, but now I really want to point out, you see the parts that I have in red down at the bottom? Ours, yours, and theirs. These are the plural pronouns, okay? So all you have is the masculine singular, le nôtre, le vôtre, le leur. And then you have the feminine, which is la nôtre, la vôtre, la leur. And then you have the plural, and it doesn't matter if it's masculine or feminine, it's going to be les nôtres, les vôtres, and les leurs. You got it? So only 3 forms for plural possessive pronouns. Okay, let's look at these examples. On a nos chaussures. On a nos chaussures. Avez-vous les vôtres? Avez-vous les vôtres? So we have our shoes. Do you have yours? Shoes are feminine. But in this case, since it's a plural possessive pronoun, les vôtres, remember it would be the same whether it were masculine or feminine. On lit notre livre. Lisez-vous le vôtre? On lit notre livre. Lisez-vous le vôtre? You see how this works? The book is masculine. Vous buvez votre boisson. Nous buvons la nôtre. Ils ont pris leurs raquettes. Mais ce ne sont pas les leurs. Ils ont pris leurs raquettes, mais ce ne sont pas les leurs. Now, there are 2 things I want to talk to you about here. Ils ont pris leurs raquettes, mais ce ne sont pas les leurs. Let's look back at that. You see how leur raquette, L-E-U-R-S, looks exactly like Les leurs, L-E-U-R-S. But they're not the same thing because, listen, they took their rackets, okay? But those are not theirs. So that's the part that's showing possession. And some of my students in the past have been, well, tempted, I suppose, to want, or they've been inclined to put an E before the S, L-E-U-R-E-S, because raquette is feminine. But you never do that. Remember that the masculine and feminine plural possessive forms are the same, okay? So that's one thing I wanted to point out. And another thing, maybe you noticed in those first two examples, I'm using on as my subject, as we often do. Not that many people use nous, on means we. But, okay, so when we're using on is the subject, you have to use the singular, third person singular verb with on. Always, even if you mean it to mean we. But you use the new form of the possessive pronoun with on. And I know that doesn't make any sense grammatically. It really doesn't, but that's the way it is. So look at those first two again. On a nos chaussures. See, we wouldn't say on a ses chaussures. No, because they're ours, and ours is always nos. Avez-vous les vôtres? Okay? And then in the second one, on lit notre livre. You would not say on lit son livre, just because it's on. No, 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 et no. All right? So that's just a little side nap, a little side, whatever, something extra. All right? So let's look at this. Here's something. This is the last thing I really need to tell you. When you have a and de coming before le and les, you can't forget that you have to make contractions. A-U, A-U-X, or D-U, D-E-S. Okay? So if you have something like tu parles à tes amis, je parlerai aux miennes. You see? Because when you say tu parles à tes amis, you don't have à les, you have à tes. There's no contraction. But je parlerai, I can't say je parlerai à les miennes, because à les becomes A-U-X, aux miennes. So don't forget that. Here are a few more examples. You also do it with de. On parle de notre livre. Parlez-vous du vôtre? J'écris à mon frère. Tu écris au tien. J'ai besoin de mes affaires. Ils ont aussi besoin des leurs. Voila. Okay? So, it's so funny because if you're watching this lesson, you're at least at an intermediate level, maybe upper intermediate level, and all of these little things from way back in the beginning of French come back to haunt you, like, oh my gosh, contractions, wasn't thinking about that. You can't stop thinking about that. Let's just look at one little exercise and then we'll be done. Okay. Now you're ready to practice and master. Remember, the very best way to practice and master possessive pronouns is to go and take my mini course. Sign up for it. You won't regret it. There's tons and tons of resources in there. But let's say which pronouns correspond to the adjectives and nouns on the left. So if it's mon dentifrice, how would you say mine? Let me give you a chance. Did you say le mien? Le mien rhymes with rien. Très bien. Ta brosse. Ta brosse, your brush. La tienne. Très bien. Son réveil. Now that can either mean his alarm clock or her alarm clock. Alarm, really. Son réveil becomes le sien. So you see here, you have definitely had clues that these are masculine or feminine, okay? The next one as well. Sa baignoire means his or her bathtub. So we would say, whether it's his or hers, we would say la sienne. Remember, it's about the bathtub. It's not about him or her. Notre repas. Okay, here, if you don't know that repas is masculine, then you would have had to guess. But remember, that's okay if you have to, of course, learn them. It's important, I'm not saying that, but notre repas becomes le nôtre. All right? Vos, another plural. Vos becomes les vôtres. And leurs pieds, their feet. Oh, by the way, vos meant your beds. Okay? Leurs pieds, their feet becomes les leurs. Très bien. So here are the answers. Le mien, la tienne, le sien, la sienne, le nôtre, les vôtres, les leurs. Voila. So that is the end of this lesson on French possessive pronouns. If you need some help and practice, with possessive adjectives and possessive pronouns and genders and everything, I can tell you that the only thing that's going to make it better is practice. Practice, practice, practice. So when you learn a word, try to go ahead and learn its gender along with it. Merci beaucoup et je vous dis à très bientôt.